John D. Rockefeller was the richest man in modern history. Today in this video we will look at how he built his empire and what we can learn from him. And today we will talk about one of the greatest, if not the greatest entrepreneurs in history, John D. Rockefeller. Actually, the idea for this video came from a book which I recently read. It's called Titan, The Life of John D. Rockefeller Sr. And the book was written by Ron Chernow. So it's a great book, I fully recommend it. But I did not want to make a video just about the book because I have a lot more information which I learned about John D. Rockefeller from other sources, his quotations, which I want to include into this video. John D. Rockefeller technically is not the richest man in history. This title goes to Mansa Musa, who was a Malian king and he lived in the 14th century. But if we are talking about self-made man, then it is John D. Rockefeller who is the richest man of all time. Because a king living in Mali at the time with all the gold, it's not something that he built himself. He acquired this wealth and of course he invaded his enemies and built the wealth. But John D. Rockefeller, on the other hand, he, from a poor childhood, he was able to build this massive empire called Standard Oil. So this is one thing that I admire about the capitalist system. It allows anyone with the right convictions, the right actions, and the right beliefs about their goals to build a massive empire to change and impact the lives of people all around the world. John D. Rockefeller's wealth in today's money is more than 400 billion US dollars. So he's history's first billionaire, the first person who actually gained the status of a billionaire. And his company Standard Oil in today's money is worth around 1 trillion US dollars. And also John D. Rockefeller is the greatest philanthropist in history. He has donated a lot of money to his church. He was a very religious person. He has actually never drank alcohol in his life. And he has also given money for education to educate the black community. He has been a very charitable person. Let's have a look at a little more about his biography. So he was born in the state of New York, but then his family moved to Ohio. This is where he lived most of his childhood. So his father was a con artist. His father was a bigamist and he left the family and went with another woman. Even when he was living with the family, he had children with a servant. So he was not a good person. And John D. Rockefeller from an early age had to take care of the family, so he had been working from an early age. He first worked as a bookkeeper and he considered that date when he got his first job as a more important date than his birthday. He was celebrating that date that he became a bookkeeper. And then he eventually moved into trading commodities, futures. So he was trading corn and all the other commodities. Eventually, when there was the oil boom in nearby Pennsylvania, he found the opportunity there to make a lot of money. And he did not go to actually extract the oil from the earth, because this was something with a lot of risk. Nobody actually knew where was the oil, so you just had to dig, and if you are lucky, you will get oil. In fact, he was in refining the oil. In the beginning, he was just refining the oil, but eventually Standard Oil was about distribution, was about producing. But in the beginning, he was just about refining the oil. So it's again a concept that I really like. It's when there was the California gold rush. The people who actually made money were the people selling the shovels. So it's not always where the money is, where you see those people going there, that most of the money is. It's not like this. It's not because everyone, for example, was buying Bitcoin in 2017 that you should be investing in Bitcoin. You see now JP Chase is creating their own cryptocurrency. So they are investing in the blockchain, yes, but they did not invest in Bitcoin. So you should know where the real wealth is. It's not usually where you see it. Let's come back to John D. Rockefeller's life. Standard Oil grew to be the largest company in America and in the world. At some point, it controlled 90% of the oil production of the world. So how he achieved that, the means in which he achieved that, is not something that will be considered legal today. He made rebates with the railroads, and he had a lot of impact. He could actually control 100% of the oil refining in the world, but he did not want to be seen as a monopoly. The other 10% were mostly controlled by the Nobels and Rothschild in in Russia and also in the Middle East. But in the United States and in Europe, John D. Rockefeller and Standard Oil was controlling most of the oil production. Eventually, at around the age of 60, John D. Rockefeller retired from Standard Oil and he concentrated on philanthropy. But you should understand something of John D. Rockefeller. He was a very secretive person. He was not a figurehead of the company. He was not like Steve Jobs, just the head of the company, the face of the company, not like Elon Musk, the head of Tesla, the face of Tesla. He was very secretive, and he found a way that he delegated his work to other people. So he was not the face. He did not want people to know how much money he had, and even when he did his charitable works, he did not want people to know how much money he was giving. In 1911, the US government decided to dismantle Standard Oil, and 34 smaller companies were formed. John D. Rockefeller was the largest shareholder of each of these 34 companies. And then after 3 years, there was the First World War, and these companies grew a lot during the First World War, and John D. Rockefeller became the richest man in history because of this war. So there will be people who will tell you that he made money from war. Actually, he did not make money from war. Like, he did not invest in the war itself. The war broke out and he had investments in these companies. He wasn't even in the company. He was the largest shareholder, yes, and he already retired from these companies. So the company, they made a lot of money from the war, and he gained from this. Later, the 34 subsidiaries of Standard Oil merged again to form what we now know as the big oil companies, because British Petroleum, ExxonMobil, Chevron, all these companies actually come from Standard Oil. After the retirement of John D. Rockefeller, he liked playing golf, and then he gave money to his son. His son continued the charitable acts of the family, and then his grandson and grandchildren were also very active in business. They eventually became the largest shareholder of Chase Manhattan Group, which now merged with JP Morgan & Co. to form JP Morgan Chase, the largest bank in the world. So it's quite ironic, because that JP Morgan and Rockefeller, they were rivals at the time. And today, you see the bank of John D. Rockefeller and the bank of JP Morgan merged together to form the largest bank in the world. So it's ironic. David Rockefeller, the grandson of John D. Rockefeller, was a very famous banker. He was the chairman of Chase Manhattan Group for many years. And Nelson Rockefeller, the brother of David Rockefeller, was vice president of the United States when Gerald Ford was president. Even today, the Rockefeller family is still rich and still very active in politics and also in business, even though they don't have that big of impact that they used to have in the previous century. So what are the lessons we can learn from this great man, from John D. Rockefeller? The first one is financial education is very important. I recently watched an interview from Ariana Rockefeller. She is the granddaughter of David Rockefeller, which means she is 5 generations from John D. Rockefeller. And still that reporter asked her a question, how the family kept the wealth, because we know that usually the wealth in a family goes away after 3 generations. So how did the Rockefeller maintain the wealth? And she said that it's because they keep track of everything that they are buying and selling. It's a tradition from John D. Rockefeller Sr. himself. So what he was doing, everything he was noting, how much, every cent that he spent, he notes, he did the budget. So you see, financial education is very important, and that's one of the reasons I have this channel, to teach you financial education, because this is one of the reasons most people cannot get rich. That's why only 1% of the population has 99% of the wealth, because only 1% of the population is financially educated. The second lesson we can learn from John D. Rockefeller is frugality. Like Warren Buffett, like Bill Gates, like Mark Zuckerberg, all these rich billionaires, they are frugal people. They don't like to spend here and there. They don't take big loans just to appear rich. John D. Rockefeller, when he sent his son to school, he was sent to a very good school with rich people, but he appeared to be poorer than the average student. And it's because John D. Rockefeller did not want to give his children that much wealth without any consequence. He wanted them to earn it. There is a story that the family went to Paris and he was counting each and every one on the receipt. He was counting each and every one of how much chicken each member of the family ate, so that he knows that it's correct, that the amount that he was given to pay is actually correct. So it's again for financial education itself, because this number will eventually go into his budget. So he needs to know everything. He needs to know each and every dollar spent, each and every cent spent. The third lesson is don't make money for money's sake. So this is one of the mistakes many people make. They make money only for money's sake. John D.Rockefeller said that there's nothing more despicable than a man making money only for money's sake. So you need to have a bigger goal. Like John D.Rockefeller, his goal was to make oil the energy, the main source of energy of the world, and he was able to achieve this. He got rich in the process, yes. And of course he wanted to get rich. He always said to his family that he was going to make 100,000 US dollars, but he made 400 billions. The fourth lesson is opportunity in tragedy. He famously said that he was able to find an opportunity in every tragedy. So there are so many tragedies happening to us, but we should be taking opportunities in them. For example, if there is a market crash, this is the opportunity to invest. It's a tragedy, yes, but it's an opportunity to invest. Even John D.Rockefeller, you will see his company was dismantled by the US government, but he became richer than ever because of this. Fifth lesson is always giving back. Like I said, he gave most of his wealth back to society. So in his view, the money was given to him by God, and it was his duty to make as much money as possible and to give back as much as possible. And that's what he believed in. Even if you don't believe in God, you should be able to have this concept in you. Even Andrew Carnegie, even Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, all these people, they are giving back their money to society, because it is this society which makes them rich. It's not about just paying taxes, it's about contributing to something. Like Bill Gates is curing malaria, he is helping people curing polio. Warren Buffett is giving money to the Bill Gates and Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. John D.Rockefeller, he invested in education. For him, education was the key to success, so he invested in education. He helped the black community get educated. The sixth lesson is delegation. He said that when you find someone who can do your job, you give that person your job and you go to do something else. So it's very important for any society, any company to properly operate, for you to delegate your work. For example, let's say I know how to do something. I'm very good in sales, I know how to do sales, but I'm bad in marketing. So I can just don't do everything all by myself. If I have a company, I will concentrate on sales and find someone else to do the marketing for me, because it will be more productive and more effective. And the seventh lesson is just ignore the haters. So many people have been hating on John D.Rockefeller. Even today people hate him. Even today people are saying that he's the most evil person in history, one of the most evil person in history. People will tell you so many bad things about the Rothschild, the Rockefellers. You just have to ignore them, because without Rockefeller, without even the Rothschild, we would not have the modern world as we have it today. So you have a goal, you build the goal. People will always criticize you, will always hate you. If you know what you're doing, you keep doing it, you keep building. Especially today, you are hearing that there is these people saying that billionaires are bad for society. I don't think so. That you see Bill Gates, such a rich person, and how he's changing the world. He said that his 10 billion investments in Africa, in educating people in Africa, in curing diseases in Africa, has made return of 200 billion US dollars. It's because this investment has made productive people, and of course he's right in what he's doing. I'm not saying that billionaires should not be paying taxes, but still there will always be people going after your money, trying to take all your money from you, trying to be jealous of you. You need to ignore all these people and keep working, keep building your empire. We will always be debating whether John D.Rockefeller was a jerk or a philanthropist. Just like we debate about Napoleon, if he was a tyrant or a great leader. So historical figures is hard to, because they live in the past, they live with different morals like that we have today. So I won't be judging these people. But what I can say is that John D. Rockefeller, even Napoleon, they did great things for society.